Hi everyone, this is Debono of the Fortune Teller Shop, and today I'm going to revisit the topic of skeptics. How skeptics get it wrong. But first, who am I? Let me explain.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to get into some readings and have a bit of fun as well.
Yeah. Well, I call myself a fortune teller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know that's pretty radical.
It's original.
Is it?
Yeah, like the original name for it.
A lot of people these days don't use that name though,
Right.
fortune teller. But basically, I would consider myself clairvoyant because I do see vision of what's to come. But I use cards to do that. I need to have cards or astrology or some form of divination to be able to tap into the visions. So I am a palm reader as well. I also read numerology, gypsy cards, and Lenormand cards, which is a form of gypsy card. I really love working with people, clients and people that are looking at their life, about their career, their relationships, finances, anything that you want to talk about now and want to see if it's going to be successful. So it could be business questions, work questions, love questions. I can tap into how business will go or the relationship will go. I'm very grounded. I'm a very grounded type of reader, very practical. I like questions as well. So if you have a question about someone that you love or a relationship or a job or a new job or whatever, if you ask me a direct question, I usually can answer it in a very direct way. A way to ask a question would be like, what does my love life look like in the next 12 months? Or is my relationship with so-and-so going to be successful?
Yes.
Or is my job, am I going to get a new job? So you're asking a specific question with a time frame works even better.
That's exactly
So when you say something like, will I get a new job in the next 2 months? It's better than saying, tell me about my career.
Yeah, a general career reading.
Yeah, because then we don't know exactly what you're doing. But if you just say, will I get a new job in a certain time frame, we can hone in on that.
Yeah.
But different readers work different ways too. So you find people that do tarot and astrology like a specific question.
So these are some of the divination systems that I use. So this is tarot. Then I use Lenormand as well, which is a form of gypsy card. Astrology charts based on your date of birth. Palmistry, which is based on the lines of your hands. And also numerology, which is based on your date of birth or your house number. So when I explain all of that to a skeptic, often it just goes over their head and they just think all of that is worthless or meaningless, and that's not what I do. They assume that I'm some sort of mind reader or body language expert. They usually dismiss divination straight away and think that there's some sort of scheme or scam that I'm doing to figure out people's lives and their future. They can't accept that divination actually can work. It's not even a thought that would enter their mind. Now, am I suggesting that there are no scams or tricksters in this industry, in the fortune-telling industry? Not at all. I've met many myself, but I've also met many very talented, gifted psychics and divination experts as well. So what is the definition of divination? Divination, the practice of seeking knowledge of the future or the unknown by supernatural means. The skill or act of saying or discovering what will happen in the future. But before we go into the future, let's go to the past. I was born a Catholic boy, and I was born in Malta, the country of Malta, little island in the Mediterranean. And these are some pictures of my church, the parish that I was born into, the Church of St. George in Ormi, Malta. That's Ormi, Malta, spelt Qormi. And as you can see, our colour theme is red. And the look of the church and the colour theme really impacted me visually as a child. And apparently I used to want to go to church all the time when I was 2 or 3 years old. So my father would have to take me to church, otherwise I'd cry and I'd be upset. So it's very interesting that all these years later, the colour red and with gold embellishments was really strong influence on my visual art. So why am I telling you this? Well, I just wanted to show you that I was not born into the fortune-telling world. I was actually born into Catholicism, and fortune-telling was not even in our world at all, and it was frowned upon and seen as perhaps the devil's work or against Catholicism and against God. However, when I was about 17 or 18 years old, 2 friends of mine from high school told me that they were going to see a fortune teller that afternoon. And I was shocked and horrified by this idea. But I was also intrigued, and I asked them if I could come along and listen. Now, I thought this was going to be very scary and evil, and I did not want to get a reading myself because I was so scared of the whole idea. But I was interested in knowing what the woman was going to say, what the fortune-telling woman was going to say to my friends. Oh, by the way, for clarity purposes, this was all happening now in Australia because I emigrated to Australia when I was about 4. So we went to this fortune teller's house, and she lived in the suburbs in Sydney. And my 2 friends and I went into her place. She used to read from her house. Her name is Donna. And we sat down, and I sat in the back. My 2 friends sat at the table with the fortune teller lady. And I just listened quietly. We asked her permission that I could be there, and she said that's fine. And basically, she told my 2 friends, they were sisters. One was about 19, the other one was about 20. And she started telling them about their older sister who was not with us. They had an older sister who was about 30. And she mentioned that their older sister was getting a divorce. And that the reason that she was divorcing her husband was because he was a gambler. And I was shocked because this was actually true. So I was wondering, how does this fortune teller know about my 2 friends' older sister who isn't there present with us getting a reading? How did she pick up on the older sister's marriage falling apart? And the reason it fell apart was due to gambling. How did she get all that? I thought maybe that if she just guessed, that an older, a female in your family is going through a divorce, that's very general. But she actually picked up on the reason they were getting a divorce. So I was more intrigued now. I was absolutely fascinated. So after my friends had their readings done, I plucked up the courage and asked the fortune teller lady if she could do my reading. And I said I only wanted to know one question or one area, which was my study and my career. Now, I'd been studying art and I wanted to be a famous artist, but I didn't tell the fortune teller lady that. Anyway, she did my cards and she shuffled them, and I pulled out some cards, and she said to me, "You're not going to be doing what you're doing now." She said, "You haven't found your true talent yet. It's still not in your vision." Now, I was confused, perplexed, devastated, because I knew exactly what I wanted to do at that stage. I wanted to be a famous artist. And she's telling me now that that's not what I'm going to be doing in the future. So the reading was over, and now we were, leaving, and on the way home, we were driving home, and on the way home, I was just devastated, totally devastated. So a few weeks went by and I was still thinking about what this fortune teller lady had said to me about still not having found what I truly am going to be doing in the future as a career. So I went out and I bought a packet of tarot cards because I wanted to learn what the meanings of the cards were, what they meant. And I bought a book as well, but I couldn't work it out. It was too complicated. So I rang the fortune teller lady back and I had a conversation with her and I asked her if she would teach me how to read the cards. And she said, "I think you've just found it." And that's how my fortune telling career began. So I studied and I met other teachers along the way and I learned different types of divination. And I moved from being a scared skeptic or someone who was scared and didn't know anything about fortune telling to now a professional fortune teller. I do readings every day for people, for clients who come and see me. And we talk about their personal lives, their fears, their hopes. We look at what's coming up in their future, if something's going to be successful. What I do cannot be proven scientifically, but my clients are not science projects. They're actually people. They have feelings and fears and doubts and thoughts and victories. So these things cannot be measured by biology or by science. So if you are a skeptic, that's fine. That's where I also started. But the best thing to do would be to either do a tarot class or join some sort of class, or perhaps go and see different fortune tellers and readers and maybe see 5 or 6, and out of that you may connect with 1 or 2 of them, and sure, there may be some that are guessing or not very good, but that's why you've got to go to a professional one, perhaps someone that's been recommended to you or highly recommended. Go out there and try things. Go out there and meet different people who are experts in the field. Maybe you will find someone who's very, very talented, and maybe you find someone who's not very talented. But don't dismiss the whole industry or the whole subject and say that it doesn't work or it's not true. Yes, there are charlatans. There are people who are just scamming people for money. But that's not exclusive to fortune telling or the psychic industry. Scammers are in every industry. Not everyone is a great reader either, but there's also teachers that are not great, and there's artists that are not great, and dancers that are not great. It's not the fortune telling world, it's just humanity. Don't dismiss a subject just because you don't know anything about it. Either way, it's up to you. I'm still successful in what I'm doing. So regardless of whether you are a skeptic or a believer or not, it doesn't make any difference to me in the end, because fortune telling will continue on as long as humanity continues on. This is Debono of the Fortune Teller Shop.